It just got stuck. Well, that was apropos. It just got stuck on one, and it didn't want us to start. Kind of like how the Philadelphia Union haven't wanted to start.
Okay, so the comedic timing of this is great, guys.
I'm so confused. If it does this again, I'm going to cry. I know. I can read the thing. I get it. Yeah, now it's going. Hello, welcome to Views from the Bridge, your second favorite podcast about the Philadelphia Union, who are soon to be your second favorite MLS team. Maybe. Who knows? We'll talk about it. Not this season. Most of the time, your host, Evan Valella. Maybe that's why we're bad this year. I don't know. Conspiracy theory. Gang's all here. He's modern baseball. It's Paul Catrino Jr.
It's true. I am modern baseball.
Yeah.
No, there's no. You will have no fight for me.
He's annoyed that most of the teams playing in U.S. Open Cup didn't want you to watch their games, but that's okay because no one cares until MLS gets there anyway. It's just an Ashcraft.
Yeah, my USL team didn't play, so I don't really care about that.
Right. Jamie Vardy was not available for Western New York fold.
You come to Justin Ashcraft. You come with your research.
Yeah. Well, it's not my fault that Rochester decided to quit being a franchise again. Okay.
But they weren't going to do it this time. They swear. Well,
yeah, they're going to be back. They're going to be back. Hey, speaking of being back with his take, back wearing the season pass hoodie. It's Chuck Booth. He's here. Okay.
Corporate shill, Chuck.
Corporate shill, Chuck Booth. Apparently can't figure out the right angles for VAR. Maybe you should talk to someone in the office about that. But nevertheless, Gag's all here. Hi, Chuck.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, we'll pass that up to the complaint line and see how far it gets, and if it gets me banned from covering the league.
What's the next level of MLS season pass swag that they're going to give you? Like, are you going to show up in like a track jacket next week?
Paul's current cleat bag.
Nice, right?
Who knows what just random stuff they're gonna just roll up with.
You'll get like MLS season pass TSA pre-check or something. I don't know.
I mean, they have already sent a DC United jersey before, which was kind of funny.
Almost the same thing.
It was technically the closest MLS team to me living in Baltimore, so
it's true. It's
true. Give them a pass on that.
Hey, speaking of getting a pass, the Philadelphia Union. Been bad start to the season. I don't know. Do they? I think that's why we're here. I don't think they do, guys. I mean, I know it's been a little weird, but this isn't it.
No, it's not.
Are we gonna talk about the weekend travesty, or just do our best to pretend as if it didn't happen?
I don't know, on an item basis, I guess we could talk about it, but I don't think anyone needs us to talk about a 0-0 as Paul shows us his cat, which is better already than.
Oh yeah, no, that's much better. I mean, no game has made me want to claw my eyes out the way that cat is currently clawing at that cactus. Much like that one. And what's great now is since we're on YouTube, you'll get the visual references to our audio now.
That's true. That's true. And what was great was that since you had MLS Season Pass, you could have turned to any other game and just watched that. That'd have been fine.
The only thing I will say about this game is I'm pretty sure that Jose Martinez and Graham Zusi were having a let's see how far into the river end we can send a ball contest.
Yeah, I feel like this game is one that will just be lost in the ides of time in Union lore. It really just wholly unmemorable. I'm sorry. This cat's great. The Union are good. This cat's great. Someone else pick up the soccer.
At
I mean, Andre Blake's back and they kept a clean sheet.
Yes.
Yes.
which is the best timeline.
I mean, it is a game that really just shows you how much of a liability Joe Bendick is, because everything around Andre Blake, and even at times Andre Blake, was chaos. And the Union get a point because of having a competent keeper in net. And that really has been the difference in like losing these previous games. And I mean, that'll still continue when we get to CONCACAF Champions League and Andre Blake literally being taken out and the Union not conceding a goal.
I will say too, I think this game, well, both games, but the game against Kansas City too, like again, just show how good Jacob Glesnes actually is at the game of soccer.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
And what else did it show on how bad someone is at the game of soccer to start this year?
Joe Bendick?
No, that
I mean, that's evergreen, I guess.
Midfielder that we don't need to see for the foreseeable future.
Teenage Heartthrob?
Wow.
Not that.
I don't want to see him either, really.
You're already there, Chuck. You're already there, are you?
I mean, he wasn't good in this game either, and he hasn't been good all season.
Yeah,
So
it's like when he's
confused.
not defending, what does he do?
This turnaround has been certainly eye-opening, considering how reliable we've considered him to be in these past 18 months or so.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's especially unfortunate when like one of the great things that the Union did was pressing off the ball, and he specifically was key to doing that. And just like the cohesion, even though it's literally the same players on that side of the pitch, like the cohesion between like stepping at the same time and then making sure that, you know, one pass can't just go through all of you. It's just not there. And yeah, if he's not providing that, then someone who can actually attack should play in his place. Luckily, that was something that Jim Curtin heard.
And then we've Atlas, and oh boy, Justin, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so we scored on a PK, which I guess is fine.
It's
that almost didn't go in, by the way, I will say. It was pretty close to not going in. But there was a legitimate shout for 4 more of them. One that actually got looked at that was probably should have been called. Another one that never actually got looked at, that never even got, like, even though it hit Robles, I think, in the hands. You know, and that never got looked at. And then there was probably 3 or 4, you know, Carranza spent half the game on the ground in the box, but apparently none of those were ever a foul. So, and then the one that was 6 inches outside the box all of a sudden is a red card foul. So I don't really know what the difference between that and any other foul in that game was. But
the fourth one was a makeup, so you got to get it all in at the end there. Perfect.
Of course, it is what it is.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a 1-0 win. Andre Blake looked quite good. Evergreen statement. Yeah, the Christmas tree was back-ish, so that was nice. I don't know. You didn't give up an away goal. Atlas fans are apparently very good with threats, I guess. I don't know how to say that in a non-vaguely incriminating way. I don't really want to say anything.
I mean, here's what
Having fun with banter on the internet.
here's what I will say about the game. I thought the game was fairly well played by the Union. I think what happened in the first half was the Union got other than the referee calls, got CONCACAF'd in the sense that they, I think, got playing the game that Atlas wanted to play. And so Atlas was fouling, doing all their stuff. The Union were getting flustered by it, getting frustrated by the fact that there wasn't any calls. I think in the second half, well, right at the end of the first half, obviously the red card finally comes out. Probably could have come out more than that, but finally comes out. And I think the Union settled into the game at that point in time. And it's easy to do when you're up a man, but we've also seen the Union get up a man and then forget how to play. And that didn't happen last night. They actually kept playing the game and actually dominated the game after that. And unfortunately, Ure Gazdag can't still seem to figure it out of how to put the ball in the back of the net. But there were so many close calls. You know, I mean, Glesnes hit a nice one from, you know, his second free kick of the game was gorgeous. You know, there are several other good saves by their keeper. And I thought the Union played fairly well after halftime.
When you have to compare it against how well of an offensive season they had last year, it's always going to be hard to replicate that. But it doesn't seem like it's just a level removed from that. It seems like it's a few. You know, they certainly haven't been as clinical as they've shown that they can be. And I think that's the tough part, is that you have to manage the expectation of what you saw last season was like transcendentally one of the best Union season or teams that you've had in terms of offensive output and defensive stout.
Well, not even one of them. It was
I mean,
it was
by every metric.
Yes.
It's like
correct.
Yeah,
I mean, I try to give a semblance of an inch to give, but like, yeah, you're right. It was the greatest season the Union have ever had. So bring yourself to the level of how do you do that every single year and get better? It's hard to do. It's really, really hard to do.
Well, I mean, that's where you don't, unless, like, realistically, I mean, this is where a team like Manchester City, for example, and I know you can't do what they do in MLS, but they're a good team to look at, because it's like no matter what they do, and I know they still haven't reached what they want in winning Champions League, they say, fuck you, you turn 30, I'm not signing you to a new contract, and then replace people. And it's always just, what can you do for me in the future, not what have you already done for me at clubs like that. And eventually, like, that's where the Union are going to need to go if they're going to keep competing at just the top end of MLS. Not necessarily saying that, like, that's the issue in the season, but at least, like, some of that in being too slow to make changes. Because, like, even, like, realistically, considering what we saw from Damian Lowe last night, like, stopping everything, like, literally, because his mobility is something else. And right now, with the performances that we've seen out of Jack Elliott, like, you can strong case that we should see more Damian Lowe. And it's just like, when you have a team that's this deep, the second that anyone's performance drops off, you need to be out of the lineup. And that's the one thing that, as great of a coach that Jim Curtin is, he hasn't shown the ruthlessness to make changes that are necessary
Mhm.
in scenarios like this.
Well, and to your point, actually, so to Chuck's point first, like with the Pep thing, like that's how you end up with like John Stones as a midfielder now, and it works because he fits the system, and that's just what it is. And it's like if Damian Lowe is the second best center back on the team, then that's what he is, and that's where he should play. What's unfortunate is that you're not gifted with that kind of depth up top, really, ish. And so you can't necessarily do that with your forwards. But to Paul's point, like it's not even just the Union. That was a one of, if not the best MLS attacking seasons ever. And I think what makes it harder for us and for fans of the team and probably the team itself is to go, but no one is not here except for Corey that was here last year. And I don't think that was the biggest issue. I don't think it's like, oh no, we don't have Corey Burke. It's just that, oh no, our guys that are supposed to be scoring all the time can only hit penalty kicks, and that's not sustainable.
I mean, I do think that we don't have Corey Burke is showing though, because
A little bit, yeah. I mean, it would be
we've
nice
seen
to
at
have
least 2 games like where it's made a big difference. Because
It shouldn't
one,
have to be on Corey Burke.
No.
but when Chris Donovan is starting a fucking soccer game, it is like,
yeah.
I mean, it really is, and you definitely do get to those points
Chris.
with like, why is Donovan starting over your talented academy players? It's a very real conversation that we need to have. That also just stems back to Jim Kirk digging as deep as he needs to into this roster, because letting Burke let go, no one expected that to mean more minutes for Donovan.
Yeah.
Not at the time. No.
Now, 100.
At all.
And this is a great time to announce our one-on-one sit-down interview next week. Chuck will be talking to Chris Donovan at length.
Listen, you don't know the reach of my ambition to make this happen.
That would be.
We have gotten Ray
It's
Gaddis onto this podcast when he had every reason to say no.
It's our new mini-series with Chuck Booth. It's called Fuck Them Kids.
Hey, I mean, it's fine. We can just talk about going to school at neglected City 6, and Strexel wants to pretend to be a Big 5 school,
Right.
and LaSalle is slipping from being a Big 5 school.
Here we go.
Oh my god.
Here
This
we
is not
go.
the
But
topic
there's-
of this podcast.
No, but
Uh.
I mean, when you're playing soccer like this, it is.
You're a communication person. If you don't want us to talk about like, you're gonna have to start. Get ready for stupid audio. It's Paul's cat. It's Chuck talking about the Big 5 in Philly.
Wow.
Just talking about putting French fries in sandwiches next, and you're gonna have to listen to that too.
No.
Anyway, so they beat Atlas. And then Cincinnati is this week out, in case you want an example of something
The
that can either
number one team in the East, Cincinnati.
Also, well, still on Atlas, I mean, it doesn't feel like a win. I know it is one, but like only winning that by 1 goal before going away to Atlas just does not feel any
Doesn't
sort
sound
of good.
No.
I actually disagree with you, because I think the amount of 1-on-1s or 2-on-1 or 2-on-2s that Atlas forced in the first half, that Blake made saves. Damian Lowe obviously had one of the best defenses that I've seen in a long time. Glesnes obviously is what he is. I think for me that it could have gone into halftime 3-1, 3-2, a bunch of different scores. And Blake and Lowe and Glesnes kept them off the board. I think, you think about the Damian Lowe basically taking out Andre Blake, that ball goes in. We're talking about a totally different game. So I think offensively it feels frustrating, because this whole season has been frustrating offensively for the Union, because in the second half we should have been able to score maybe 2 or 3 goals. But I think based on the whole game and the way the whole game played out, to me, it definitely feels like a win. You're going back with a 1-0 win. You get 1 goal early in Guadalajara, and all of a sudden they have to score 3. And so I think, it's a totally different conversation if we're coming out of that game 0-0, we're coming out of the game, down a goal. All of a sudden, we have to score a lot too. So I think to me, it feels like a win. To me, it feels better than what the weekend felt like. To me, it shows the value of Jack McGlynn.
I would hope it feels better than the weekend. If it feels worse than the weekend, then there's some examining that needs to be done. And yes, for our podcast that seems to be just bent on standing Jack McGlynn at this stage because he's just not getting the playing time that he deserves. Because I'm going to
start standing Calvin Sullivan. Thank you very much.
Hold on a second
He
now.
can beat the Arsenal.
We're not. We don't stand Jack McGlynn because of subjective reasons. We stand
That's
Jack
not
McGlynn.
I didn't say that. I just said we're standing Jack McGlynn. So, and by using that in that, you still agreed with that. Our reason is because he's really goddamn good at soccer and and the lineup clearly is better at creating chances when he's in it, especially when they don't have the number one chance creator on the team in Kai Wagner.
That's exactly why Jack McGlynn gets stand. That's why
I think blue's just a good color on him, and I think that's a really legitimate reason to like somebody.
I want to actually talk about soccer.
Jesus,
you must.
I think for me, probably the biggest thing on the attacking side of the field that I'm wondering is Carranza. Carranza seems to put his footprint on a game. He had his footprint all over that game last night, and just 1 or 2 more fouls get called, and we probably have a different conversation about that game. But I think the problem for me right now is it between Bedoya, Flock, Gazdag, and Ure. It doesn't feel like any of them are willing to put their foot down on a game and make a difference in the game. And that to me is Ure does a lot of running for sure, but I don't feel like he ever it's at some point come find the ball, come get the ball from midfield and go forward with it, or come do something to put your stamp. And I think Gazdag's doing what he can, but he's playing with a lot of seemingly ineffective people around him. Bedoya is what he is at this point, and I'm fine with it. But Flock, I feel like, at that point, you need to figure out how to put your stamp on a game and make a difference. You know what I mean? And that's those guys. I feel like it's just that's the frustrating part right now. Is not that they're not necessarily scoring. It just feel like they're not even making a difference in the game.
And that's all that, and that's almost where I wonder if Damian Lowe's mobility and being able to win the ball higher up the field than where Elliott currently does could make a difference in helping with that, because with what everyone does go on the break, Gazdag wants to shoot and not create. So we need to figure out a way to let them do that, because there is really no option of where those 3 players don't play a lot of minutes.
I think when in the game, we don't have to go on the break every time. McGlynn can. I think what he did last night, the way that he can actually settle the ball down and play a little bit through the midfield, is going to he's going to come back and get the ball from Martinez. He's going to come back and look for those passes and then try to turn and go forward. And that's where I think he's needed in the game. And to go back to your point about Corey Burke, the thing that Corey Burke would have brought to last night's game is the same thing that Damian Lowe, a ton of CONCACAF experience. he knows how to get down and dirty in Jamaica. Like that's the thing. And Damian Lowe knows how to do it
almost cost
too.
him a green
Andre
card.
Blake knows how to do it. And so, like, how do you, can you find that person who knows how, Carranza seems to know how to do it too. So it's like we need those people who are not afraid to take a foul here and there, not afraid to pull around a little bit. Ure is a big dude, and he doesn't seem to be able to show that at all.
Yeah, Ure, it'll be. There is times where I'm like, he definitely like gave that guy a shoulder, or sort of, was running for a ball and kind of held up to initiate contact a little bit to create space. But like, he doesn't play the way that a Corey Burke or Damian, like bigger, like Kai Kamara is a really good example. And not that he's that big, but like just that kind of bruiser. Like, if worse comes to worse, there's a 50-50 ball on the ground, you're going to push a guy off of it. And if you get a foul called against you, all right, cool. But if you don't, then okay, well, that's mine. And there's a 8 times out of 10 for Kai and Teal Bunbury and a couple other guys. Wando, another really good example of just like, I'm putting you on the floor and then I'm going to score. Great, thanks. And like, when you have a team that has kind of these fits and starts of like, we can't score, I think you need a guy that can just kind of go, that's mine, and I'm going to score. And we seemingly don't have that, or the guy that you would think, you could point to and go, he's kind of big, doesn't really do that.
Well, we do have it. Just unfortunately, he also does stupid things and gets red carded for them.
Well, yeah.
It also shows like Martinez is the player that does that and like is very CONCACAF-y in the way that he plays. And what's nice about him playing in these games versus MLS is 50% of the fouls that he makes in MLS aren't called in CONCACAF. So
yeah, I was gonna say there's
he
a little
can kind of play the way he wants to.
It's bullshit.
It is what it is, man.
It is what it is. I think
26 minutes into this podcast, and I feel like we're done.
Yeah,
I feel like we talked about it at all.
Well, I don't think anyone wants to seriously like talk about the weekend because just kind of whatever happens. I've already resigned to losing to Cincinnati, so
sure. Yeah. No, I think, Justin, to your point, I think Leon Flock has been passive at best this year.
Yeah.
And at his worst, might as well not be on the field. And that's fine, I guess. Yeah, other than that, the numbers don't look very promising. If you look at it from since this team has made the playoffs, it's really not been good. Obviously, you can kind of throw away last year as an outlier just because the team was what it was, which was one of the best soccer teams in North American soccer history, probably. But it's weird because it's like there's Champions League success, but I also don't feel like anyone does a good enough job of explaining why that's important and very cool. And also, it feels like you're just kind of waiting to face one of the big Liga MX sides and then kind of get led to the slaughter once you play the away fixture. But who knows?
No, we don't do that anymore.
It's true, but I don't know.
Orlando almost beat the big Liga MX sides.
I mean, very fair.
I think for me, like kind of where you started there was this season. And that's why I'm kind of okay where the Union are right now. Like, we're 6 games into the MLS season. We're three games into CONCACAF Champions League. I think like we're not even a third of the way through the season as far as MLS play goes. Obviously, you still have Open Cup, you still have Leagues Cup, you still have CCL game. Like you still have all this stuff coming up, and so I'm totally okay with this team kind of wandering through the first half of the season. 1, because 9 teams make the playoffs, and 2, because I still think this team, because we haven't rotated players because we've added guys, and we didn't talk about him really, but we've added guys like Joaquin Torres. Like, I don't think the Union are a place where like, oh, this season's a wash already, and we should expect to finish in 10th place and not make the playoffs, and maybe we make a deep U.S. Open Cup run. I don't see that being the way this season plays out. But at some point, the Union need to start turning it around, and this weekend would be a great time to do that.
There you go. There's your
I
line.
don't have anything to add to that.
Great. At VFTV Pod, tell us how much you're panicking, I guess. We're adult.